Well, Arizona was one of the most impacted states, I think, in the country on this, because we had not one, not two, but three trigger laws on the books, unfortunately ready to go when Dobbs overturned Roe. And so we had this 1864 ban, literally was written in 1864 before the Civil War was over, before women could vote, before obviously technologies like IVF even existed, before there was even clear guidance on washing hands for surgeries and delivery of births, but of babies. But so that obviously insane. We have this and this is the law that our current Attorney General and my opponent have pushed for. Unfortunately, they successfully got it re-implemented. And that is the law of Arizona. We also have a personhood law that gives legal rights to embryos. And that one is sort of caught up in the courts right now. But we have a 15-week ban as well that was passed this year by our Republican governor and legislature, that none of these bans have any exception for rape or incest. Obviously also outrageous and unacceptable. And that one, and now there's sort of a dispute about whether the 1864 law applies or the 15-week ban. I think the judge made it clear that the 1864 law applies. What the impact on Arizona has been horrible. And I've done multiple press conferences about this. I'm going to do another one with our gubernatorial candidate, Katie Hobbs, in Tucson next week. But it has virtually shut down all reproductive care services and abortion providers in Arizona. And, even, emergency room doctors don't know what level of care they can provide. Hospital CEOs are scrambling out here to work with their lawyers to figure out what level of care they're allowed to provide without being prosecuted and thrown in jail. The 1864 law would allow a prosecutor here to throw a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, a midwife, any person who assists in an abortion, a friend, an Uber driver, who knows what that is, in jail, prison for up to 5 years. And so, I believe we are only days, maybe weeks away from a woman dying as a result of this, because, doctors are, in a position where they're having to ask themselves, do I allow this person who presents at the emergency room to get to death's doorstep before I'm allowed to treat her? A pharmacist not sure exactly what they can and can't prescribe to women, and literally in a situation where and obviously a huge difference between me and my opponent. My opponent wants to prosecute under this law. I've said we will never prosecute under these laws. I will never prosecute a doctor, a nurse, a midwife, a pharmacist, a woman when I'm AG, because of that express right to privacy in our Constitution. Ultimately, like Vermont, Arizona will pass a constitutional amendment to make it clear that Arizonans want reproductive freedom and bodily autonomy. That'll probably happen in 2024. But in the meantime, we need prosecutors out here who will not prosecute and who will rely on our constitutional right to privacy to make sure that we protect the women of the state. So it's pretty acute out here.
That was going to be my next question. What can you do as AG to protect women's reproductive freedom? Can you explain that for people maybe who aren't 100% clear on that?
Yeah, well, the first thing I can do is not prosecute women, doctors, nurses, pharmacists. The second thing I could do as AG is utilize my statutory supervisory authority over county attorneys here. We have 15 counties in Arizona. And I will advise all county attorneys that I believe it's unconstitutional to prosecute, under the 1860, under any of these laws, quite frankly, because of our right to privacy under our Constitution. I've also put out a 12-point plan for reproductive freedom that I will implement, including things like, and again, hard to believe we're having to say this, but I will provide guidance for women on protecting their digital data, their privacy of their digital data when they visit pharmacies, clinics, doctors' offices, emergency rooms. Turn off your cell phone. Make sure that you're not being tracked by internet service providers. I will attempt to prevent any internet provider from providing information to a prosecutor, private information from a woman who has visited a doctor's office for care. And I have said I will never extradite a woman from Arizona to another state for a prosecution, and I will never participate in the extradition of an Arizona woman back to Arizona for a prosecution. So these are the kinds of, it's crazy in the year 2022 that a candidate for attorney general is having to make these statements and say these things. And Arizona women do not accept this. And it is a major issue in my campaign for attorney general.